Alright, so I just saw the new A24 movie, Materialists, with Dakota Johnson, Pedro Pascal, Chris Evans, directed by Celine Song, and let's talk about it. The story is pretty simple. It is your basic love triangle movie. And there's the ex-boyfriend who still has feelings for the new rich guy who just came into the picture. And it's super basic and by the numbers on that aspect. But the greatest flaw to this movie is its complete inconsistency to connecting with its themes. It is very jumpy in its storytelling. It's very inconsistent, which is very disheartening, especially after how emotionally impactful Past Lives was. And this one just does not hit anywhere near as close or as good as Past Lives did. Past Lives is just way more emotionally impactful on every aspect and tells a better romantic story with a more convincing love triangle than this one, especially since it is a love triangle movie where the love triangle is barely even tested. It's so barely about Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans trying to get Dakota Johnson's love that there are large parts of the movie where you only see one or the other. And that's not what everything about this movie had led me to think it was going to be like. And so the story leaves a lot to be desired in so many aspects that it must get a Hot Pocket score, just because you'll get sick of it really quickly if you just keep consuming it over and over and over again. Cinematically speaking, there's also not much to it. I guess it's a decent date movie. But another issue is that this movie keeps being listed as a romantic comedy. And the issue is, it's not really a comedy at all. There aren't really any comedic situations. There aren't really that many jokes. There weren't, my theater didn't laugh. Ever. There was one comedic moment, but that could feel just in place in a drama that in a comedy. And so its lack of tonal consistency with the genre that for some reason, and I quadruple checked this, it is listed as a rom-com everywhere. It is not comedic enough to earn that title, especially in comparison to some rom-coms from the past few years, like Anyone But You is the first movie that came to my mind, with Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. That is full of comedic moments and way more consistent also than this one. It's just weird. It's a weird disconnect in so many aspects. And so another Hot Pocket score here, as again, if you just keep consuming this, you will get sick of it rather quickly and you'll want to get different flavors. Direction. I do think that directing is mostly really solid, although there is another big fault with this film, and that is that it feels like it ends and closes the story up 7 to 10 different times. There are so many times where I'm like, oh, the movie can just fade to black and I think it'll be just fine. It closed everything that it needed to, but then it kept going. And then I'm like, oh, okay, 5 minutes later, and I'm like, oh, it just reached another really good natural closing point, and it's going to close and stop here, right? And then nope, it keeps going, and then another 5 minutes, and then and that's poor. That's bad. That's inconsistent. And it really feels like the story is prolonged for no real reason, as we've already had a pretty good denouement for the story that was being told, even though the story was nowhere near as strong or as powerful as her previous debut movie. This movie is just not as strong as Past Lives in any aspect. Past Lives is way more emotionally hitting. It's like harder, it's heavier hitting emotionally. It is more consistently paced, and it also kind of tells a better love triangle story than this one does. And that's what really upsets me about this one, is that it's just not as good as Past Lives. And like, so much about it is a huge step down from Past Lives in so many aspects. And I think it's because Past Lives was a much more personal story. And this one just doesn't connect as well throughout the whole film and its consistency. And I think that's a big shame, because I did want to like this movie. And so I will have to give a Hot Pocket score here for the directing, just because I found a better flavor Hot Pocket already in Past Lives. If I want to watch a feel-good romance, I'll watch Past Lives, even though that doesn't make me feel as good. But it still made me feel better than this one. But that might just be me personally. Acting, Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal are really good and really charming in their roles, and they're really good in the movie. Dakota Johnson is good for what she is brought on to do. She just, I don't know, she's a bit more monotone, and when you have two, like, heavily charismatic actors around, it's tough for the monotone to work. And I still think she pulls it off well enough, but when you have Pedro and Chris, it's just too much for them. It's just too much for anyone to keep up. Evans and Pascal are too good at this, and they were really good in this movie, and Dakota Johnson was also pretty good. The issue was not necessarily her and them and their characters, but mostly the differences, like their characters, really. It just doesn't fit with this movie, and it felt like a huge disconnect. So another Hot Pocket score here as well. Overall, this is expectations and experience. Like, I was expecting something more emotional and just more heartfelt from the person who delivered Past Lives, which did bring a tear to my eye. And it's just not as good. And I hate to keep bringing up Past Lives, but I have to, I think, at this point. But it's solid. It's decent. It's a good date movie, I guess. But it's nothing superb, and definitely nothing you're going to be wanting to rewatch super soon. So it is getting a Hot Pocket title here. But yeah. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment down below your thoughts and opinions on Materialists if you've seen it or you're planning on seeing it now. Subscribe if you haven't already. And other than that, I will leave you guys to it.